I have this fantasy, I hope is not a fantasy, that the community raises up. You know, as Brian describes a village, as you grew up, you know, look at the Comanche, the village comes around. And yes, I've got an assignment in my own home, but I've got an assignment in my village too, in my community.
Yeah.
You know, to be doing my assignment as a man and model and mentor these young men and young ladies.
Yeah. Another great day in Montana. Sun's out, but you know, I feel something a little different here. It's a little cooler. I can feel the season starting to change. And that's good. I think it's good for a man to feel that, because you just know time's passing and there's really no time to waste. Our focus is lifelong mentoring. And this is a very, very important thing. A lot of people talk about mentoring, but if you really don't understand it, it becomes almost something that a guy will put in his day planner and schedule. Well, I'm gonna get with my son, I'm gonna get with my daughter, and we'll spend 20 minutes and then that's it, and then I go off to other pursuits. I wanted the guys to understand that mentoring is something you need to be thinking about every day, all your life. First for your own children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, and then for fatherless ones that I believe God will bring across your path. And a lot of people are talking about mentoring these days. You got mentoring programs popping up, people talking about mentoring. If you don't do mentoring right, it becomes bowling, right? Let's go bowling. Let me take a young guy bowling and check the box because I've just mentored the next generation. Wrong answer. That's not enough. It's not what it's really about. And I like to add the term lifelong mentoring. Lifelong mentoring. Otherwise, you get in this mindset where you don't connect the way that, say, Brian and Charles have connected, to where there's a commitment, a lifelong commitment to stay together, to be connected. My commitment to Brian Pruitt is a lifelong commitment. My commitment to my daughter Jenny, to my sons Chris, Stephen, and Daniel, lifelong. Well, you got to kick them out of the nest. Not about where they nest. It's about what's in your heart toward the next generation. And as long as I have breath in me, I will be a father to Mr. Pruitt. I will be a father to Jenny, and to Daniel, and to Stephen, and to Chris, and to Ante, and to Tony, and a whole bunch of other young people that God has brought to me to become my spiritual kids that have nothing to do with my biological kids. All right? It's that kind of connection. Well, it's one thing to love each other. It's one thing to have this cool bond. But if you're not teaching and training the next generation, I'm not sure what the value of that is. Okay? We might feel good, but what are we really accomplishing? Because the world in which these young people have to live is getting increasingly more difficult. Have you noticed? The challenges that they're dealing with. I heard a statistic one time here that said, not long ago, that said the age of innocence has dropped. The age of independence has increased. And what young people used to be exposed to at age 17, a 12-year-old is now exposed to those things. Things like pornography and all kinds of mess are a mouse click away. So there's just so much that we have to share with these young folks.
My name is Jackson Dunn. I just celebrated 10 years of marriage with my beautiful wife, Krista. I've got 2 little boys, who Jack is 6 and Sam is almost 5. Man Camp is great. It's been going really well. You know, I didn't know what to expect coming into here, and you know, honestly, I wanted to meet with the Lord. I wanted to learn from and really, what's interesting coming, you know, not knowing really anyone real well, but knowing I had a lot to learn from people around me, and even in my own life, stuff that I've been working through, going through. Knowing that this time was not coincidental for me, of what I've been working through, and was very thankful to have this opportunity to grow in the ways that I knew I needed to grow, and even ways that I didn't know.
Several years ago, in my hometown, which is a pretty laid back, pretty easygoing town, a young lady was driven to her high school by her mother. They drove up in the family car. Her mother kissed her daughter, 17-year-old daughter, kissed her goodbye for the day because she'll be back to pick her up at the end of the day. She's just going to school, just going to high school. They get out of the car, the young lady gets out, mom waves and begins driving away. Just behind that vehicle drives up another vehicle. It's a young 17-year-old man who had previously dated that young lady, and she had broken it off because he was not a good influence, and she understood that. Well, this young man got out of the car and he had a backpack. Well, that's pretty normal, right? You're going to high school as a young guy, public high school, you have a backpack. The young lady is beginning to walk up the steps to this really nice high school. The young man follows her up the steps. He doesn't go to that high school, but he knew that she was there because she had just transferred essentially to get away from him at another school. The young man reached into his backpack. He pulled out a revolver. He shot her 5 times on the steps of the high school. She's just trying to go to school. He shoots her 5 times. He puts the gun to his head and he kills himself. Amazingly, she lived, but obviously will be physically and emotionally scarred for life. That doesn't make sense. Why would he do such a thing? Here's why. His frame of reference was short term. He saw few options or no options, and he didn't understand the consequences. There are billions of people in the world today. He didn't need that young lady to fulfill his life, and yet it made sense to him that if he could not have her, he must kill her. Come on. Listen, we've got to help the next generation understand consequences, options. We've got to extend their time frame out, frankly, into eternity. We have to connect them with the Lord. We have to serve up this profound gift that Jesus Christ brings to us. And then we must prepare them to be successful in whatever field they choose.
I think some folks don't get that the need is, I don't want to say equally great, but is great in the community that I'm in. You know, which is a church on every corner, primarily Caucasian. And we've got incredibly bad stories. I shared one recently. It's a young boy that I'd love to adopt. Mother's been married and divorced 4 times. He's 12. His birth dad died of cancer, and for the 9 months leading up to his death, never reached out to his 12-year-old son. You show up at a funeral, and we're there, and we're going, "Hey, Rye, introduce us to who you know." He goes, "I don't know anybody here." It's his father's funeral. He doesn't know anybody there. His father had a completely different life and lived 30 minutes from Ryan. You see the videos roll. Ryan's not in a single video. You see the little punch marks of pictures of this man with his children. There's 2 pictures of Ryan when he was just a little lad in the tub with a sister. You go back to his mom's story. At 15, her parents get divorced. Her father comes out as gay. She just kind of got out of line at 15. Sexually permissive and doing drugs.
Yeah.
And what she was looking for was someone to love her. So what does this young man think of what a father is? He's seen so many men coming out of his life. What does he think a mother does? What does this young man think marriage is? And he's 12. And we love on this kid every chance we get. And he lives a whopping quarter mile from where Dave lives, you know, an upscale golf community. He's a half mile from me. And there are so many young men and young ladies that are in the same spot. And you know, we've got to come alongside these kids, identify them early in schools. You go into school today, guys, and our young people in elementary school do not see enough men in elementary school.
Right.
Our young men and young ladies are being taught by awesome women, but they don't interact with men. And when men come to school, you can tell right away the young ladies who don't have a dad to love on them. Right away. Why? Because they're grabbing you.
Right.
Look what I did, look what I did, look what I did. The young men, look what I did, look what I did. And they want someone to notice them. You know, tell them they have value. Tell them the work they did is, that you're proud of it. And it's rampant in every community I've been part of.
Yeah. I'm going to give you one enemy of mentoring. This is one thing that stops a lot of men from having that relationship with their sons, with their daughters, so that they can help them progress into the future. Here it is, guys. It's fighting wrong battles. It's fighting wrong battles. It's a problem when a man brings forth children into this world and doesn't shift his mindset and begins to compete against his kids. He's got to win against his kids. You know, the classic, you wrestle with your boys. Man, I love wrestling with my boys. Love wrestling with them. But you got to check yourself, because that time of wrestling is not to show them that you can win. It's to show them that that physical contact with a man, that activity is good. It's a good thing that men can do. The generations can experience together. But if your head's not on straight, it becomes about winning. I got to beat him. I got to beat him. Now, when they're real little, no, we don't do it. But man, they start getting, you know, oh, I got to show them. No, you don't. No, you don't. All right? And here's what can happen. You can find one little thing about a son or daughter, and you can make that your, this is not the battle, this is the war. I must win this. I've got to win this. And you start picking at that. And it's generally something outward. I don't like the pants that boy's wearing. Well, man, why would you wear that? I don't like the way, you know, the hair is looking. I don't like this, I don't like this. And you take him on. And you win and you win and you win, because you can probably force them if they're young enough. You can force them to do what you want. But I'm telling you that this clashing that takes place eventually goes like this. And it gets farther and farther apart. Because what God is doing in every young person is preparing them to be independent. We've got that 18, 20 years to prepare them. They're going to build on that foundation for 50 years. And so you've got to have that place where we're not battling over things that don't matter. My number 2 son, Stephen, came to me one time when he was a teen, and he asked me a question, and it took me back to when I was a teenager. And the big battle when I was a teenager, some of you guys, you're too young, you won't have any idea, but some of you will. Remember what the big battle between young guys and parents was back in the 60s and 70s? Remember what it was? Hair. It was hair. Hair. Come on, man. Don't fight wrong battles if you want to have a mentoring relationship. Now, what was really cute, because when you teach this stuff, it often is put right back in your face. Stephen, my number 2 son, is about age 14. He comes to me and he goes, "Hey, Dad, I want to put some golden tips in my hair." Now, he's got my same color. He's got real dark hair. Golden tips in your hair. And I go, oh, okay, son. Just exactly how does one do that? He goes, well, you get this plastic bag thing, and you put it over your head. He's making me nervous right now. And then you poke holes in it, and you pull hair through, and then you get this stuff, and you just wipe it all around, and you leave it on there for a couple hours, and then when you're done, you get gold tips in your hair. And I'm going, gee, that sounds great. And man, I looked him straight in the eye, because I don't want my kid around with golden tips in his hair, you know, and I just said, "Stephen, I'll help you." Man, so next thing I know, I got my boy, and he's got this old bag thing on his head, and we're doing this little woo. He's got golden tips that came out, washed it out there, and he comes out and he goes, "How do I look?" I'm like, "Great." And here's the cool thing. I don't know how long it takes hair to grow out, but a month later, he got a haircut, gold tips ended up going away, never did it again. I could have stopped the relationship with my beloved son, who is so close to me right now. Man, he's got 2 granddaughters he brought into my life and a grandson on the way. And I could have separated over something as stupid as hair or clothing or whatever it is. Now in my house, principles were very important. So my kids weren't allowed to do, drugs and drinking and all that crazy other stuff. I'm not talking about throwing your principles away. But men, what I'm saying is that we have to mentor for a lifetime. And in order to do that, don't you ever fight a foolish battle with your kids. Wow. Hold them close. Keep that relationship tight, because when the real issues come, they want to know that it's not about you, that it's about them.
I want to have a clear plan for my family. I work in family ministries, and so I'm helping strengthen marriages and trying to strengthen families, and I'm doing that as a vocation, as my call. But it doesn't always translate as it should to my own home. And in this experience, in this place, really being forced to look in the mirror and who I am as a man, who I am as a husband, who I am as a dad. But man, getting to hang out with guys that are a couple steps ahead, maybe a couple steps behind, and several steps ahead. Those that are talking legacy in their 60s and 70s. And people that I see wrestling with, man, the urgency, and I gotta do this. I gotta do this now. And I'm going, man, look at you and look at your family, like you are running this race well. And to see them 20, 30 years ahead of where I'm at and feeling like they're just getting there, that's both encouraging and challenging to me. And I want to do this well. I want to run this race well. And I want it to be more than just, I love my family, and I do, but I want it to be more than that. I want them to not only see and feel love, but know how to love. Jesus said that the new command I give you, by this all men will know that you're my disciples. And how? By the way that you love one another. I want them not only to see that in their dad, to my wife, to see that in her husband, but if we're talking legacy and we're talking generations, I want them to know how to do that as well. I need to be more intentional in what I'm explaining, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and helping them see the how to the what. And I want to be able to do that better. And that's one of the many things I want to take away from this experience.
This ministry is a total team effort, and you can be part of that team. Perhaps you've got a location, a ranch or retreat center with lots of outdoor activities where we could shoot our next series. Perhaps you could be a sponsor for one episode of the entire series, or you could even be on the show. If you want to help us to produce high-quality Christian television, build strong families and great dads, please go to our website. Thank you. One of the most important things that you can teach a young person is how to work. Now, I didn't say it was the most popular, I just said it was one of the most important. Because I think we've grown up, so many of the last couple of generations grew up in an era where a parent felt like they were being a great parent if they helped Timmy, Tommy, or Susie, if they almost pampered them, and we've got to reverse that. Okay, that's not going to help them be successful. It'll give them a cushy life to start with. But all of a sudden, when they're released on their own, now what do? Because an employer is not going to play like that. An employer is not going to expect them to come in and go, oh, you don't feel good today, we'll just stay home. That doesn't work. So one of the great things that we can teach young people is literally how to work. Mentally and physically get work done.
Fly us up there, we'll do it. You guys want for some picking, we'll do some stacking.
No, I like stacking. I like stacking. Yeah, of course.
Actually, most of the big ones are gone.
It's been so cool for me during our time here in Montana is to watch all the mentoring that was taking place, and some of it was very intentional and some of it was almost by osmosis. And mentoring wasn't just old guys, young guys. I mean, we had some really cool stuff when we learned about survival, right? That was some really senior guys. But we had guys that had never fly fished before, right? And it didn't matter what their age was, but other people could show them, oh, this is how you tie that knot. This is how you cast. Slow down your back cast, and those kinds of things. So mentoring went crosswise as well. So it wasn't just this way, it was this way as well. It was really, really profound. And there were things, and we got all these neat young guys that were with us, and there were things that they were able to observe. And this is something you probably didn't think about. But you as men, as you just acted like godly men, were showing them how to do it. We didn't stop and go, watch this, Cole. I'm going to be polite to the lady that's been cooking for us all day. Nobody said that. And yet, each of you guys, when you treated her with respect, and these guys observed it, they learned, that's how a godly man treats somebody that serves them.
My name's Kirk Packer. I have 4 children. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. And my oldest girl is Montana. And then my oldest boy is Colt. And then my second girl is Sedona, and my youngest son is Stetson, and they range from ages 11 to 3. Currently I pastor. I've been pastoring 10 years in the state of Illinois. A life-changing moment for me was in 2007. A man approached me at a conference and just wanted to have some lunch, but then later asked me if he could mentor me. And ever since that time, I spend time with him on a weekly basis, and we get real. We don't just stay on the surface, we get real. And that was an answered prayer to me. It has made such a difference in my life. I would never have been able to stay pastoring at the church I'm at if this man had not stepped into my life. And so after having that modeled for me, I then began mentoring others and just walking with them through their life. So I have a number of different guys through the church and just through connections that I spend time with on a regular basis, and I just really enjoy it. There was a question, that we talked about earlier. Do I have what it takes? Can I do it? So I'm walking away from here saying, you know what? I can do this. I can raise my daughters and my sons to know the Lord, but I can also be a person who guides others who are not my natural sons and daughters to know the Lord. And so there's just a confidence in doing that, but also just a knowledge and a plan. We talked about the power of a plan. I feel like I have a plan. I don't just have good intentions. Good intentions will only take you so far.
There are 4 fundamental things, if you're going to be an effective mentor, that you've got to have. You've got to connect with somebody, all right? And the first one is I call it mentoring moments, all right? You can't have a mentoring moment unless you spend time together. And I had guys tell me, yeah, I'm a mentor, man. I'm doing my part, Brian. Oh, yeah, I'm doing my part. They want me to just give them the old pat. I go, well, tell me, what's your part? Oh, man, I spend 30 minutes a month with a young guy. It's just great. I think, my goodness, you spend more time combing your hair, Bubba, than mentoring that young person. Jesus walked with his disciples, and he would say, consider the sky, and he would explain what that meant. Consider the fig tree, and he would tell them what it meant. How could he do that? He didn't write things down and leave them notes, man. He wasn't like doing Post-its along the way. He walked with them close enough to touch them, see their eyes, see their reactions, answer their questions. time together. Next thing, positive relationships. You cannot be screaming and yelling and screaming and yelling and mean and nasty and get over there and get this done, and then all of a sudden click into, oh wait, let's see, check my book. Yeah, it's time to mentor. Come on, son. Come on, daughter. Let's really connect. No, that ain't going to happen. You've got to build a positive relationship so that the mentoring flows from that relationship. If you try to segment your life into being like the general and the boss and do it my way always and not listen ever to a young person and then think you're going to flip your mentor switch, you can't do it. Number 3, open communication. Open communication. You've got to be able to talk about anything with the next generation, because I'm telling you right now, they're getting bombarded with sexual ideas and stuff through the internet and their little buddies and whatever. Open up. Open communication also means that those times that you've fallen short in life, at the appropriate time, tell them about it. Tell them about it, because if you don't, you know what happens? They see you as being this unreachable, untouchable, pedestal thing, and they can't measure up. And you let somebody have hopelessness for long, their heart becomes sick, and they just go off in their own direction. Don't ever do that, all right? Final thing is you've got to have in your mind predetermined life lessons. Predetermined life lessons. If you don't know what you're looking for your son or daughter to do and to become, then your parenting must be negative. By that I mean, you're sitting here thinking, well, I want them to be nice to their brother and sister and clean up after them and be respectful to their mom. Okay, that's what I'm after. Well, when they do those things, if you say nothing, you're not rewarding the right stuff. Then they give a noogie to a little sister or little brother, or they lip off, or they don't clean their room, bam, now you're on them. So I'm silent when they're doing right, I'm on them when they do wrong, and your whole parenting must become negative. Don't go there. Figure out what you want, tell them about it, and catch them doing right. We have a lot of fun at Man Camp, but there's nothing we do here that is frivolous or just little add-ons. And I'm telling you, lifelong mentoring is a key to securing the next generation. And if we don't get busy, if we don't take this seriously, we're going to raise a generation, they don't know how to work. Frankly, they don't know how to care about other people. They're self-centered. They're weak. This is not the way that you raise a generation. This is the way that whole nations collapse. This is serious stuff. So we need to take our jobs as men of God very, very seriously, and we need to engage with that next generation, because if we don't do it, nobody will.
Feels like rivers have flooded from my eyes as I'm changed into a better man. I look up to the stars and know it